Hello. In this video, I will tell you how to test your TypeScript code. I'm using Visual Studio 2013 as my IDE, and I have already created a ASP.NET web application. Now you can have any application. The idea over here is to test your TypeScript code. So I have created a calculator.ts file over here, which has a calculator class with two methods, add and subtract. So I would like to test it so that just to make sure the methods, uh, the logic in the method is all correct. Okay, so as such I'm using Visual Studio, I need to install a test runner. For this I'm going to use Chutzpah, and you can find over here on GitHub. Now Chutzpah is a test runner. A test runner basically is a tool that recognizes your tests and it can run your test. So for the frameworks it supports like QUnit, Jasmine, and Mocha. For this video I'm going to use Jasmine. You can use any framework over here. And it also uses Phantom.js, which is a headless browser, to actually run your tests. And if you are interested to hook up like your Chutzpah and tests in your build server, so you can think about using Phantom.js for it. Or maybe I can create another video like how to do it later on. Alright, so to get this Chutzpah test runner, you can do it in two ways. One is by NuGet, or you can actually install the adapter for Visual Studio, whatever version you have, as you can see. Alright, so the latest version I think it's running on is 4.0, and don't forget, I think it's 4.1. Don't forget to read this link if you are going to get the latest. Alright, so let's see. I assume you have installed Hotspot. You have a working test web project, like you have created your class. So the first thing to do is create hotspot.json file. Now this is a way of defining a configuration how Hotspot can understand. So it's quite simple actually. The framework suggests what framework are you going to use. So what it does is, if you have whatever framework you have over here, Hotspot will load that particular file, like it will serve that file for you. So you don't need to load a Jasmine, Mocha, or a QUnit source file for your tests. Now this is a compile option. Now as such I'm using Visual Studio. So whatever code I write here, when I hit save, it is transpiled to JavaScript for me. So Hotspot doesn't need to take care of compiling it. So that's why the mode is external. Now if you want Hotspot to compile it for you, you can actually define it as an internal, so it can do the compiling process. Now here we are saying that the extension will be TS, and it doesn't need to worry about extension which is .d.ts. Okay, you can also have code coverage with Chutzpah and the tests. This one is the important one. So what I'm saying here is, as such Chutzpah is living at this level. So what I'm saying is, whatever you find under app folder, include everything that has this extension .spec.ts, and exclude everything that is .d.ts, which is a definition file and the JavaScript version. Otherwise what will happen is, say suppose I have this test, which I will go through in a minute. So it will have a TS file and a relevant JS file as well. So if you don't exclude it, you will have duplicates tests listed in like what Hotspot will see is the duplicate tests. Now this option, which is very interesting, so expand reference comments, which is set to true over here. So what happens is, say suppose you have your TS file over here, which is your spec, the test file. So it is talking about these ones, the reference comments. So you will have some references based on the definition files, which is for giving typing support in your IDE. And if you have something, a reference with .ts file, what Chutzpah will do is when it's loading your file and whenever it encounters a reference tag ending with .ts file, it will actually load that file for you. All right. And the location of this one is very important. All right. So let's see. Okay, let us go through the JSON config again. So this is the only tests path that I need to define. Now references, I don't have any references defined over here, but just an example, say suppose if you are using Angular or any other like JavaScript framework. So basically you need to load your core files, like the files that are necessary to run on, like for every other test if it depends on it. So what you can do is you can define a path where that source lives, and you can set this property, which is test framework file, to true. So what it will do is Hotspot, like before loading or running any of your tests over here, it will actually load everything in the references where is test framework file is set to true. All right, so let us see. I have created calculator.spec.ts as you have already seen before. Now it's the common way of writing Jasmine tests. So you actually describe what your test is going to be about, and you have 3 tests over here. The way you write it is using it. Okay, you give a description and you perform something, you arrange anything, like for example this one you have arranged, so the calculator is system under test, which is this file, and I have performed an action. Now I'm asserting it. All right, so what you can do is there are 2 ways to run tests from the context menu. So you can directly run your tests from here. As you can see, it says 3 passed, 0 failed, or you can also say open in browser, which is a nice way of like looking at your test results. So say suppose if I fail this one and run it again, it shows this screen, which is quite helpful. It gives you what the error is. Okay, now say suppose if I remove this reference file and even this one, let's see what happens. So as you can see, when I remove the .d.ts, it is complaining about the describe and all the members that are defined in Jasmine. Cannot find describe, cannot find name it, and same as expect. So I will bring this in first to solve my errors. Now if I run this again in browser, you can see calculator is like not defined. The reason it is not defined because it is not loaded. The resource file itself is not loaded. So just to prove, as you can see, Chutzpah has loaded the spec.ts but not the calculator, the actual source, which is the system under test. Alright, now I will show you how you can use the test explorer. Now this is a window in Visual Studio where all your tests usually are listed over here, and you can directly run or run on a particular condition basis. The thing is, this will only be available when you actually install Hotspot test runner for Visual Studio. Alright, which is an extension for the Visual Studio. Now say suppose if I run all, so it's only able to find one. I should say it like I've found this little bit buggy sometimes, like a few minutes before it was showing all the three. What I will do is, as you can see, I have saved now, and so the tests are listed. So what you can do is, when the tests doesn't show up over here, you can modify something just here and there and hit save. So hopefully it will be listed over here. So you can run directly over here if you don't want to see the browser UI. And as you can see, it says this one is failed. I will correct this. And as you can see, it's like running the test and it is passed. Now there are times there but where you don't want to like actually go to run all and actually select something. So there is an option where you can actually select this one, this icon, and any text that you modify, for example this one, it will actually run your test on save. So as you can see, it's running all the tests, not just this one. So this is a quite handy way of like running your tests. I will quickly correct this again, hit save, and it's running the test, all passed. Alright, so this is how you run your test. Now there are a few things to consider. Chutzpah.json file is the configuration file at this level. So whatever is defined under app will be actually found, like the configuration can be found over here. Now say suppose if you had a different folder over here, I'll just create one, and you wanted a different configuration for Chutzpah. So what you can do is you can have a different chutzpah.json file in this folder. So what will happen is whenever you run test under new folder 1, so Chutzpah as a test runner, it will only look at that JSON file. It will not come up over here. But if you don't have any JSON file in this level, it will actually find one level up and it will be able to find it. So it will actually use this configuration to run it. Now say suppose you think if you don't have this file defined, which is not the recommended approach, you should have your application level chutzpah.json file, then it automatically uses the core Chutzpah configurations like the defaults and everything. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it has changed in 4.1 or not, but yeah, it's always good to have your own JSON file over here. As I said, you can use QUnit or Mocha. Alright, now say suppose if you would like to have code coverage. So what you can do is you can also check over here by right clicking over here, run Chutzpah with coverage. Alright, and you can also debug actually. Now there are a couple of ways to debug. Number one is if you prefer debugging options in your browser developer tools, you can do that. Now the second option is debugger. Right, so as you can see, it says it's 100% code coverage because I've added tests for both of the functions for my class, as you can see here. Alright, hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please comment and I will surely try to help you. Thank you.